all the way through. So right now, I laid material coming this way, also up, and now we're just gonna bring it out this way, right to the edges. Things like this, when you're DIY installing at home and you get something like this, it can get scary, it's really not. You have the ability to pick up the material just like that, and just work the material back out to the edge. Say that would happen somewhere here, it gets a little more difficult, but you're just utilizing the same technology and material to do those things. Over here, if I have one, I'll let you know. But the idea is to make it just very easy. Push the material towards the edges, and you should be fine. So now we're just working the air from the center out towards the edge. You guys remember there's a hood vent on this hood. So what I'm gonna do is I got up to the first part of the line, but from here I'm gonna outline the rest of it, and this is just gonna help you with the install process. So check out, watch how I do this. Basically, I'll take a route plug, follow the lip of the hood vent. What you wanna do is you wanna close that off. So now your hood vent's done. I can work all this down and all this out. So basically, from here moving forward, I'm gonna work here, here, and this will come up. Basically, at this point, what I want to emphasize is I've laid everything on the hood so far except this area here. And it may be intimidating some people when you actually see the amount of air that's left, but you have so many different directions to go. Basically, I can pull material down this or pull air down this way, here, here. It's not really that hard, but like I said, I know it can be intimidating for people that do this for the first time. So just kind of watch me as I go through it. And if you guys have any questions, please comment below. I'll always do my best to answer. Very, very straightforward though. I'm literally just guiding all of the air from the center and you're working it to an edge. Overlapping strokes is kind of what it is, so every time I go over, it's an overlapping stroke. One thing that I see a lot of when people are doing the hoods is right at the edge. What happens is people like to pull on the material and stretch it down like that. That's not what you want to do. Really what the idea here is that you're just going to allow the material to sit in place. So if you notice right now, I'm just using my finger to really push it down and let it fall in place. And that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do all the way around. At this point, the whole hood's been laid, wrapped all the way through. So we're going to trimming. One of the things you're going to do first is just get rid of all the excess material. Obviously, you don't need all this material here, so I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to have about 2 inches left all the way up front. And then going back over here, I did play the tape earlier. And what that's for is for you to guide your blade, not on the paint, but you're going to use inside the hood and guide the blade right up against that fender. Now that you have the tape there, you don't have to worry about cutting the paint. But like I said, I got to emphasize that you're not cutting on the paint. You're using it as a guide. Right now, I'm angling the blade towards the engine of the car, basically, away from the fender. Not cutting on anything, just using the negative space between the fender and the hood. So the idea right now is to get rid of all the excess material that we don't need. That'll just make it easier to work with, get the hood open, and do all the necessary tucking. Just got rid of all the excess material, so at this point I'm able to lift the hood open and start tucking around the edge. I'll try to get close up so you can see what that looks like. The last and final step is going to be trim it all out, its final trim, which will be right up against the hood pinch weld mark. You're not going to be cutting necessarily on the paint. If you notice, if you lift your hood, you'll feel that the weld mark is almost like a plastic weld. I'm not sure what it is, but that's what we're going to use to cut up against. One of the main tools that I didn't mention earlier in the intro is the heat gun. Very, very important. You choose to use a torch if you have a torch. If you're familiar with wrapping, you know that a torch is a little bit harder to work with. I recommend for DIY, grab a heat gun. Very, very cheap. These are also available on the website. But nevertheless, we're going to get into it. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing here. So now that I got all the material cut out, you see it's not cut perfectly. I just did a general cut out, so I got about 2 inches of slack all the way around. I'm going to start from the center, give it a little bit of heat, and allow the material to sit in place. I'm not going to stretch it. Like I said, a lot of times when people heat the material, they want to pull on it, they want to stretch it, and ultimately what they end up doing is overstretching the vinyl. It'll look good for a day. As soon as it gets a little bit of engine heat on it, gets outside, that material pulls back, and it just looks like crap. So what we're going to do here is not let that happen. Applying a little bit of heat, you'll notice that the material gets start to get pliable. It's going to fall in place. I'm going to push it down to my pinch weld. Just like everything that we've done so far, starting from the center is where we're going to work. That's something we're always going to do when we're doing vinyl, starting from the center. So I got that laid, and I will be working my way across this way. So the reason why we're applying heat here is to make sure that this gets very pliable and easy to work with, so you can lay it into that channel that we're trying to get to. You'll notice that the creases, everything goes away as you heat it up. If you don't know what the pinch weld is, where we're going to be the vinyl right directly up to it. We're going to use that to cut up against. So every hood's going to be a little different. They're not all going to have the pinch weld at the same exact spot. They're not all going to be the same. Some will be further back. So it's going to be case by case. In most cases, exactly what you see on this Camaro is what you're going to find on your vehicle. At this point, when we reach the corner, it's very important to make these corners look right. In this case, on this vehicle, they're very easy to work with because they're round corners. So all I'm going to do is approaching it with a little bit of heat. And as it heats up, just lightly pulling it around the corner. You want to get it all the way around. Get a nice clean edge. Once that's all done, all we're going to do is trim out the excess material and get a nice clean edge there. Nice clean corner. Alright, so this is where the blade comes in. Now it's been laid all the way around. I'm going to use that pinch weld to lightly score the material. I'm going to lightly score the material with the blade. I'm not actually pushing or cutting. It's a very, very sharp blade. You don't need to put much pressure at all. You'll find your rhythm as you go along, but it's really about light pressure, scoring the material, and using that pinch weld as a guide. So because I scored the material, all I got to do is kind of peel it back, and there you have a nice clean line. I have seen this, and I'll say this, I've seen a lot of people, other shops, they'll go way over, way deep in here, and to me, it just looks really bad. If you're not overstretching the material, it's not necessary to come all the way over here. To me, in my opinion, a nice clean edge like that is ideal. That's just my way. There are multiple ways of doing this. You can't go all the way back and around. As long as you do it clean, that's all that I think we're all looking for, is a nice clean edge. Something to keep in mind is as you're doing the edges, you want to make sure you're doing the same consistent cuts all the way around, so following that pinch weld all the way around, laying, tucking it to the same spot, and ultimately just give it the same look. Visually, you want this to be open, and you want it to look clean. So that's what we're doing, all the way down from front to back, all the way to the back of the hood. Alright, now that everything's trimmed out, before you lay the hood down, you want to use the heat gun, go over all the edges, make sure they're locked in place. You will notice this, if the vinyl's not set yet, it'll actually pull up on you, so you want to look out for all that. So just follow the edge with the heat gun, and visually look at it, make sure nothing's pulling up. Now we got trimming done, we can get rid of this tape. It's unnecessary at this point. We're just going to take it off the car and be done with it. Alright, so last and final step, we want to get the hood vents cut out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a hole right in the center, and I'm going to allow the material to come back up and let the material set in the recessed area. So I don't want to down in place. All we're going to do is use the edge of the internal of the hood, I guess. Use that as a guide to trim all the excess material out.
Alright, Alright guys, what up? It's David from Premium, and today I'm going to show you guys how to wrap a front bumper. Luckily today we're going to be doing 3 different types of bumpers. We're going to be doing this Range Rover bumper behind us with Enos Tech film, and we're also going to be doing the, I believe it's a Chevy 350, 3500?
The 2500
Oh, is it a
AT4. 2500 AT4.
There we go. Thanks, Jack. We're going to be doing that one in an Avery Carmine Red, I believe. Gloss Carmine Red. And they're going to be different materials, so you're going to see the concepts of stretch between an Enos Tech film versus an Avery film. Alright guys, so just a quick rundown of what we're going to do with this bumper right here. Adrian already cut out the material. With this film, it's a little bit more used to applying more heat, but less of a stretch or a pull. So this film's already pre-shrunk from factory and pre-stretched from factory. Sorry about that, Adrian. Anyways, what we're gonna do with this film is we're gonna apply it right here, and Adrian's gonna go ahead and hold this side while I just heat it up. And what he's gonna do is he's just gonna hold it with tension, but not pull how we traditionally pull with the old techniques. This is something that I learned in the Enos Tech class called the zero stretch method, and it's been working really, really well for us here. What Adrian is doing right now is he's going ahead and like wiping it down with alcohol, making sure all the edges and all like the little crevices have no dirt. Just because with this film it's really staticky, and once you get debris behind the film it's really difficult to take out. So what he's doing, he's wetting the wheel well area and any additional surrounding areas around the vehicle, and also down at the bottom, just so that when we pull the material off of the liner, it doesn't attract any more dust particles, because it prevents any more static from going into the back of the film. First step is to just kind of give it a cold tug in the middle, that way that kind of gets blashed out. Do you have enough?
I'm good. Do you have enough?
Yes, I do. All right, go ahead and give it a cold pull.
I'm gonna kind of just drop this side down and go to your side.
All right. I mean, this bumper is not difficult just because it's not so rounded like this other one. So I'm gonna show you guys a different technique on how to do that one. Go ahead and just a little bit right there.
So I'm just holding.
Yeah. So now what you want to do, guys, is Adrian's in a correct position. He's getting kind of level with me and where I have to be at, and he's just basically gonna hold it with tension. And as you guys see these wrinkles go away, the bumper is just gonna glass itself out. So once these wrinkles start to go away, start to go slowly. Okay.
Got you, boss. Got it, boss.
Come out a little bit more. Right there. So the key to this is you guys want to heat up and down. And since the material's already kind of pre-stretched, then it will go ahead and just glass out. Start going, Adrian. A little bit slower. A bit more attention.
I'm giving you a good minute.
Now that we already made it, here you go.
Made it.
There you go. Now the most important part about this is, even though we did already shrink it technically, we should always heat our hedges just to make sure that they go down. There you go.
Look at that.
So as you guys saw, the whole concept between Enos Tech is that we're not trying to stretch the film too much. We're just heating it up and slowly letting the film technology work into itself. So it's basically just heating the whole thing up, letting it shrink, molding it onto the panel. So that's the difference between Enos Tech versus Avery, what we're about to show you next. So the difference between this bumper and this other bumper, as you guys saw, that one's a little bit more flat. This one is a little bit more rounded out. That. So with this film, that concept won't work because it doesn't shrink as much as that film. So what we need to do with this one is give it a nicer pull. That way, when we pull the film at a very like angled way this way, we're gonna have the lines running horizontally, so it could just wrap over. So it's basically kind of like wrapping a door handle. And we're gonna show you guys that next. All right, with this bumper, I'm gonna need a couple hands just because I don't have it on the car, so it's not as sturdy. So that's when I'm gonna have to probably have someone hold it here, and you guys are gonna see that we're gonna be able to stretch it along this way. That way, it doesn't fall off the stand. heat the center. So what Anthony's gonna do, he's gonna heat the center. We're gonna give it some tension already. That way it kind of gets a small little stretch going. Go ahead and give it a good pull, Adrian.
Good like that.
All right, go ahead and pull it. Yep, pull it.
Holy. You sure you got enough? I got a lot.
I got quite a bit too.
What do you want me to drop this side and work on your side, or?
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop this.
Yep. Over there. You can see how there's still wrinkles.
Hold on.
And then help spread right here. Alright, so as you guys saw, with this material, it is a little bit more stretchy, but you need a little bit more hands because it's off the car. Alright guys, I don't know if you guys saw, but we did remove the parking sensors. The reason why guys, I don't know if you guys saw, but we did remove the parking sensors. The reason why we do that is, so since we pulled this way, you guys can already see that the film is shrinking this way, and it'll be kind of a little bit more pronounced once we heat it. So before we make that cut, we always want to make sure that we shrink the material. We'll make a circular cut. We'll go ahead and shrink it again, and then we can go ahead and give it a small excess material and wrap it around the back. Heated temperature at 100, but 5 to 185, and with Enosec it's a little bit higher, but don't quote me on those numbers. You kind of just have to look for yourself on that. So right now we're killing the memory of the film. So with this, I was able to kind of just heat it up and push it down. As you guys can see, it's not too deep in there, but if it was a deeper recessed area, then we would probably have to do some inlays or something like that, just so that the film doesn't peel back on us. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna cut this out and then shrink the material. Since we did pull this way, we may develop some lines right here, but that's not a big deal because we'll leave about I would say 1/8 of a material excess left over, and we could just wrap it. What is up, guys? It's David from Premium Auto Styling, and today I'm going to show you guys how to wrap a fender. Luckily for us, we were able to pretty much disassemble the front end, but if you guys can't do this at home, you can still use some of the tricks I'm going to apply in this video. It shouldn't be too difficult, but let's go ahead and get into it. One of the things that I want to mention before we get started is that some good ideas that you can do, like little tricks to kind of help you hook your corners a little bit better, is to pop this fender out and also use some masking tape around these areas. That way when you're cutting right here, the vinyl doesn't stick as well, and you can go ahead and tuck it a little bit better. And same thing on this side over here as well. Since we have all of the front end disassembled, we're able to hook our corner a little bit better. But like I said, guys, if you guys don't have that luxury of doing it at home, you can still apply all the techniques at home with just some masking tape and just some very careful cutting. The thing I forgot to mention is that when you're working with a metallic film, there's going to have some directionality to it. So if you guys want to go ahead and step over here.
you see the arrows are facing this way, and we want to make sure that it's consistent all the way through. One way that I like to remember is the 3M logo always has to be facing up. So these arrows are pretty much going to travel along the car this way. And then if you guys do not have a friend, go ahead and buy some magnets. They come in really handy for laying film by yourself.
Because David has no friends.
Right? Because no one wants to help me here. You guys notice the film's all wrinkled up. It looks pretty messy, you know. During this stage, you don't want to go ahead and squeegee yet. What you want to do is you want to glass the panel out, meaning that you want to go ahead and get all these wrinkles out before you even put your squeegee down and get all the air out. So one way that I like to do it is I like to hit all my corners first. So I have a corner here, here, over here, and then one down here. So let's go ahead and just hit each corner. I'll take some material off right there. And I'll go ahead and I'll give it a nice tug this way. And now, as you guys can see, the wrinkles are kind of going away. We have a lot of wrinkles this way, so what I can do is I can go ahead and lift this panel into a tighter pool. Now some of these wrinkles are going away right here. And if you guys see some wrinkles here, this one to just lift up, pop them down. Now we're gonna go ahead and hit these two corners over here. I'm doing small little relief cuts, that way I can maneuver the film a little easier. As you guys can see, the wrinkles are pretty much all going away. I'm gonna go ahead and heat this whole area, that way I can stretch this way. Whenever you guys stretch something and pull something, you always want to go ahead and make sure you shrink it back down. So if you guys want to look here, the film is a little stretched, so you want to just heat it a little bit, and you'll see the film relax in its place. And that prevents it from shrinking like during the sun. And now we're ready to squeegee. Let's leave a little opening right here if we can. This car is white, you want to make sure you get full coverage on the panels. So with this one, what I like to do, I just like to give myself a little bit extra. That way, I have right here, I can go ahead and just tuck that back. And I like to do that around the whole area. Alright guys, and that is how you wrap the fender. As you guys can see, there's still some white exposed right here, but that all gets covered up by the trim pieces in the camera.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a tag team intro. Alright, just get to work, guys. Just go. Before they start prepping, let's go over to see the shipping's doing. Anthony.
What's up,
brother, man?
What up, guys? Welcome back to the vlog. The crew's gonna focus on getting the car done today. Most of my time is gonna be dedicated to our event that we have this weekend. So we're setting up a bunch of different activations that wrap done really poorly. They didn't tuck anything. Basically just layered it over the seal. I started to actually tuck it just to see if we're gonna be able to salvage this. I think we're gonna end up rewrapping it, but at least this is what it should have looked like somewhat. That's what they did. But basically what this comes down to is somebody's trying to save money and they go with the cheaper wrap shop, and this is what you get. Not what she deserves, but this is what she paid, you know, this is what she got for what she paid for. which is, it's unacceptable. It shouldn't be done this way, but we'll fix it.
What's the problem here, Daniel?
Check this out. The installer of the other wrap didn't remove the wing, and they just actually cut it out onto the car. So I'm assuming there's probably gonna be maybe a scratch in this area. But whether or not a scratch is there or not, that's not the right way of doing it. That's why that wing was pulling up. That's why we take everything off instead of trying to trim around it. I'm curious to see what's back here, because I bet you this is gonna be shitty too.
Wow.
Damn. If you did this wrap, you should be ashamed of yourself. That's horrible. And then we stylized it. We added the black in down there and up there. Obviously your badge. The bumper wrap came out perfect. I think. Yeah. So everything that was messed up is gone. So it was pretty rough right here, if you remember. It was all messed up. So we fixed all that. We went in, like basically every panel. We went in, trimmed out everything, like on all the corners. We fixed them up. They were kind of just hanging there, you know. So we did that. We tucked all this in for you. We went to the roof. We tucked all that in. Remember how that was like just lipped over? And then these were never taken off, so the material was just lipped over, sitting here and here. We actually got it all to lay in there the right way. We trimmed out the doors. So like there's no there's no bubbles or anything in there. Remember how that was?
Yeah, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
No bubbles.
Yes, we fixed all that. Obviously the side springs were all bubbled up before. So we fixed that. Well, we redid them. We fixed it. We redid them. Same thing back over here. Cleaned up the doors all on the inside.
Oh my goodness.
When you open the doors, you know that
It's so clean. Like this
Yeah.
roof was just like you could tell like someone
Right.
like went in and did something. Like,
yeah, you didn't know what they were doing. And I think like the biggest thing was the trunk. The trunk was the worst part on the wrap. We did it right, you know, so it's all done right properly.
Oh.
We did the
Yeah, he like didn't even cut it out.
yeah. So it's all done right now, you know. It's done the way it's supposed to be done. This is all done right. No bubbles in here anymore. So yeah, and I think it's like a wrap you can be proud of now, you know. You don't have to be embarrassed for all that. The wings all corrected. We took it off, wrapped it properly.
Oh my god, this is so clean.
We did it all the way around. I mean, everything that we did over here, we did over there as well. So it should be good now. Right over here, there was like, I don't know what he did. I really don't. But right in this area was pretty bad. Like it was almost like burnt up. Yeah. So we covered it up. You can't really see it. But,
I think the black like makes like good accent.
yeah, that's why we chose to go with the black. I mean, it looks good, it's a good accent, but also because there was damage.
பலூனுக்கு என்ன கேஸ் போடுவாங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டு கொஞ்சம் சொல்லுங்க ப்ரோன்னு சொல்லிட்டு சில பேர் கேட்டிருக்கீங்க. யாரா இவங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டு நம்ம செக் பண்ணி பார்க்கும்போது தான் தெரியுது இவங்க சூப்பரான விஷயத்தெல்லாம் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. இவங்கள ப்ரோமோட் பண்றதுக்காக சோ கால் மெயின் யூடியூப் சேனல்ல வந்து இன்டர்வியூ எடுத்து ப்ரோமோட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. நம்ம சொசைட்டி வேற லெவல்ல சேஞ்ச் ஆயிட்டு இருக்கு. லீகலா பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஆபாச விஷயத்தை கண்டனா போறவங்களுக்கு இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் டெக்னாலஜி 67 படி அந்த அதர் செக்ஷன் படி அவங்க கேसेस வாய்ப்பு இருக்கு. இதுக்காக அவங்களுக்கு 3 வருஷம் வரைக்கும் ஜெயில் தண்டனை இருக்கு. and 5 lakh rupees ஃபைன் அமௌண்ட் இருக்கு. நீங்க உண்மையிலே டேலண்டான பர்சனை மட்டும் கொஞ்சம் ட்ரெண்ட் பண்ணுங்க, ஃபேமஸ் ஆகுங்க. சோ சில பேருக்கு இன்ஸ்டாகிராம் எப்படி ஒர்க் ஆகுதுன்னு நல்லா கிளியரா தெரியுது. அதனால தான் காட்டக்கூடாத விஷயத்தெல்லாம் காட்டினே இருக்காங்க. நீங்க அக்கா அக்கான்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஃபேமஸ் ஆகுறதுனால உங்களுக்கு ஒரு பிரயோஜனமும் இல்ல. அவங்க தான் அதனால டெவலப் பண்ணி இருப்பாங்க. சோ ஃபர்ஸ்ட் அக்கா அக்கான்னு சொல்லிட்டு தப்பா பாக்குற மேல தான் கேஸ் ரெஜிஸ்டர் பண்ணோம். அதுக்கு என்ன பனிஷ்மென்ட் இருக்குன்னு சொல்லிட்டு அப்கமிங் வீடியோல சொல்றேன். பெட்டா சிட்டிசன் விடனேஷன். ப்ரோ இந்த பலூனுக்கு என்ன கேஸ் போடுவாங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டு கொஞ்சம்
என்னடா வேணும் காட சொல்லு.
என்ன அமைச்சர் கடா கண்ணுதான் இல்ல நீங்க காமெடியாவது இருக்கு.
வேணாமே. என்னடா வேணும்?
Being the oldest kid at home be like. Being the oldest kid at home be like. Being the oldest kid at home be like.
When a racing motorcycle leans into a turn, it has to take into account that its RPM will increase. That's because when it drives straight up, it's riding on the middle of the wheel.
Yo guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I will be making a tutorial on how to drift in Need for Speed Most Wanted with controller and steering wheel. Now you are probably wondering why not to show us how to drift with keyboard as well. Well, the sad truth is that you can't really drift properly with a keyboard in this game. Yeah, you can get a power slide or a short drift, but that's not the proper drifting. So I really recommend drifting with controller or a steering wheel. So first of all, we need a proper car to be able to drift. I recently posted a video where I drifted all 33 cars in Need for Speed Most Wanted, and in my opinion, without a doubt, the best car for drifting were Lexus IS300 and Mazda RX-7. So the best thing if you are just starting off would be to grab one of these two. For this tutorial I'll be using Mazda RX-7. Okay, so now we have the car. Now we need to upgrade some parts. So let's head up to a nearest tuning shop. First, for the parts upgrade, you want to buy a new body kit or a spoiler. You can choose both, but you must pick at least one, because what this does, it unlocks an aerodynamics tuning option, which will tune later. The other three options, rims, hoods and roof scoops, are your personal preferences, and they won't affect the drifting in any way, but make sure to make your car look as cool as possible, because no one likes to watch ugly cars. Now let's jump to performance upgrades. For the engine, you want to use the ultimate upgrade. The same goes for the transmission. For the suspension, you always want to choose the first option, so it unlocks your steering, handling and ride height performance tuning possibilities. But it doesn't.
There are three different versions of the most wanted BMW M3 GTR in Need for Speed Unbound. First up is the one we all know and love, being the 2005 BMW M3 GTR Legends Edition. If you're an EA Play member, this is one of the reward cars given to players. To earn it for free, you need to extract all 15 blacklist cars in the new lockdown game mode, and once you've done that, it will be added to your garage. Next up is Razor's custom M3 GTR. This is the #1 blacklist car within the lockdown mode, and if you're lucky, you'll find it in a lockup and will need to extract it for Razor. Once you've done that, it will be added to your garage and features some cool Easter eggs. Lastly is the 30th anniversary edition, unlocked at tier 75 in the premium speed pass during volume 9. It features a mix-up of 4 iconic cars celebrating 30 years of the franchise. Do you own all 3? Let me know in the comments. There are 3 different versions of the most wanted BMW M3 GTR.
Same banner, but different game. So what is going to be the fourth mystery game that is... If you carefully look at this game, this is a simulation game and we have not seen any simulation game come as part of the fourth mystery game or any mystery game. 90% discount, and there is no discount on Epic Game Store for this game, Car Mechanic Simulator 2018. It can be the earlier version, more likely to be free. Card games, all kind of a game simulator, you know what kind of a game simulator games are. Farming simulator, that something is coming and they are going to give this game for free on Epic Game Store. That's why so much of discount, 90% discount on simulator. And if you see the system requirement, this is already 4. And why Steve is selling this game as 88 rupees, why they want to quickly sell it, they must be knowing that something is coming and they are...
Here's an overdue addition to my Noob's Guide series. If you're new to this series, it's an oversimplified playlist dedicated to making complicated car topics easier to understand for those who just got into cars. The perfect topic for today's guide would be car talk. You can then add modifiers around. Finish. Finishes are usually gloss, satin, matte, or metallic. Chrome is also a subset of metallic. You can then add modifiers like chameleon, flake, and candy. The main reason wraps are so popular is because of their price. To get a wrap professionally done is usually half the price to get your car professionally painted. So basically you can change the color of your vehicle, make it look totally different than what you've seen for half the price, and that's why they rose to popularity. Probably the biggest misconception about wrap finishes that even I got wrong is that they can still orange peel. However, it is conforming to the material underneath it. If your paint is very strangely textured, has very poor paint corrections done to it, or has tons of rock chips on it, the reality is you probably should still get a new paint job, because if your car's paint is so poor to the point a wrap can't be put back on it, it'd be a waste of money to get that paint job re-corrected and redone and then put a wrap on top of it. That's probably just as expensive as just getting your car painted the color you originally wanted. So that's my word of advice to anyone who has a super bad paint job. Wraps are not a substitute to paint. They are meant as an addition to it. So think of it like that. If you're someone who just got a car primed, or if you're someone has super rusty, really bad paint right now, I would not recommend wrapping over it, because wrap is meant to adhere to paint. It's not meant to adhere to rust and lots of gaps and so on and so forth. So let's actually talk about why you should research the material as well as the company that's making your stuff. So I will link to a really good video that shows the differences in brands. Lots of wraps usually have protective film over them. Some companies will use cheaper film than others. The better, more quality the film it is, the easier it will heal itself from sunlight and as well as just heat from a heat gun. And that's very important, because if you ever get scratches deep enough, or even in the cheaper vinyls cases, even micro scratches can go through the protective layer. If you have no protective layer over your wrap, or you bought a wrap that's so cheap that has such a thin layer, so if it makes it through that protective layer, say hello to that scratch. It is now your soul brother, soul sister. It's stuck with you, because unlike paint, micro scratches can just be buffed out of paint. You can just paint correct it out. And if it's super deep through the clear coat on paint, you can just repaint that section seamlessly. Same thing with rock chips. Rock chips on paint can be touched up. Now let's talk about wraps. Micro scratches on wraps, the only way to get rid of those scratches is to either hope and pray that you had a good enough protective layer that a heat gun will remove some of them, or if you got low quality material, you're just stuck with them. Rock chips are a lot more difficult of a monster. You have to actually rewrap that exposed area, because rock chips essentially pierce through. In paint's case, it pierces through. If it's deep enough, it'll even go all the way to the primer and through the clear coat. However, you can just still reprime it, repaint it, and then retouch it up with clear coat. Again, with wraps, you do not have that luxury of seamless addition. If anything punches through your wrap and exposes what is underneath, the only way to fix it is to rewrap that area. And what that's going to do is that's going to leave a seam line of the new layer that sits on top of your current layer. Each and every rock chip you collect is only going to further unveil the previous color you have underneath. And if you have a really strange color underneath, like for example my case, I have a yellow car that I've turned blue. Any of that blue gets pierced through and shows the yellow, that yellow will stick out like a sore thumb. So you do need to think a lot about the material you're going with, and that's something you should read up on, as well as read reviews for, watch videos too that show comparisons of those materials and how well they heal or how well they handle getting hit. The next thing we'll talk about is application. Whether you do it yourself or whether you get it done professionally,
execution plan. The query execution plan tells the evaluation engine how
This the query optimization involves many operations like optimization.
हेलो एवरीवन, डायग्राम हम ड्रॉ कर लेते हैं. कन्वर्टिंग अ हाई लेवल sigma price is greater than 30 linear scale. नाउ उसके बाद क्यूरी ऑप्टिमाइजर हेलो एवरीवन, आज की वीडियो में हम क्यूरी प्रोसेसिंग एंड ऑप्टिमाइजेशन का टॉपिक शुरू करने वाले हैं. ये डाटाबेस और एडवांस डाटाबेस मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम दोनों ही सब्जेक्ट्स के अंदर काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है. तो आइए देखते हैं कि क्यूरी प्रोसेसिंग एंड क्यूरी ऑप्टिमाइजेशन में आपको क्या क्या पढ़ना है. तो आज की वीडियो में बेसिकली हम कुछ बेसिक टर्म्स देखेंगे और क्यूरी प्रोसेसिंग के स्टेप्स को भी डिस्कस करेंगे. तो सबसे पहली जो टर्म आपको पढ़नी है वो है क्यूरी प्रोसेसिंग. तो अब देखो होता क्या है कि एक डाटाबेस है, उसमें अंदर कोई रिलेशन है, तो उस रिलेशन में से इन्फॉर्मेशन निकालने के लिए आपके पास एन नंबर ऑफ क्यूरीज हो सकती हैं. एक ही टाइप के रिजल्ट को फाइंड आउट करने के लिए आपके पास अलग अलग क्यूरीज हो सकती हैं. तो अब उस क्यूरी में से कौन सी क्यूरी सबसे ज़्यादा अच्छी है, सबसे कम कॉस्ट के अंदर काम कर रही है, वो आपके लिए बेस्ट क्यूरी मानी जाती है. तो क्यूरी प्रोसेसिंग है क्या? इट इंक्लूड्स ट्रांसलेशन ऑफ हाई लेवल क्यूरीज इनटू लो लेवल एक्सप्रेशंस दैट कैन बी यूज्ड एट द फिजिकल लेवल ऑफ द फाइल सिस्टम. क्यूरी ऑप्टिमाइजेशन एंड एक्चुअल एग्जीक्यूशन ऑफ द क्यूरी टू गेट द रिजल्ट. अब होता है कि आप जब क्यूरी फायर करते हो तो हाई लेवल क्यूरीज होती है, जैसे एसक्यूएल के अंदर
helpful to transforming high level query into low level language. So the basic steps of query processing is, first is the parsing and translation. Second, it is doing optimization, and next it is doing evaluation. So these are the basic steps in query processing. So first what it does, it parsing and translation. After that translation, it doing the optimization work. After the optimizing, then only it evaluate the query. Okay, so these are the steps in query processing overview. So let us see in this diagram. The first is a query, so which is in high level language. This is a high level. This is a high level query. So this high level query will be translated into low level language at last. So here you'll get the low level language query. Okay. So here high level query, first it converted into parser and translator. So what that parser and translator use the query? So first it takes the query from the user. Okay. So the parser and translator translates query into internal form. Okay, first it translates the query, whatever the query we are given, into internal form and then translates into relational algebraic expression. Okay, so the translator first converts the query into internal form and it translates to that relational algebraic expression. Whereas parser is checks the syntax and verify the relation. So that is the work of the parser. So first we are taken the query from the user and that query will be placed on the parser and translator. Here the translator will convert the query into internal form, whereas the parser is used to check the syntax and verify the relation. So after that the expression enter into relational algebraic expression. So that relational algebraic expression will be sent into optimizer. So here what this optimizer will do? So whatever the SQL query we are given, that now converted into relational algebra expression. Okay. After that, that relational algebra expression will be optimized. Optimization means it increases the performance of query by selecting the best query. Okay. Relational algebra will give 2 or more queries. Okay. 1, 2 or 3 more queries with the same relation. Okay. So in that, this optimizer will select the best query. Optimizer select the best query. Suppose A and B are 2 queries. Okay, these 2 queries here the optimizer will select the best in A and B. So then you can say A is optimized than B, means A is the best query when compared to B. Here we are just comparing only these 2. Okay, we are not comparing entire database, only the relation between the whatever the queries we are taken. Okay, so that is related to relational algebraic expression. So the relational algebraic expression can be expressed in different ways. Okay, in the different ways, different queries, this optimizer will select the best query. Okay, and that will be placed on the execution plan. Now the execution plan will executes the engine, takes the execution query execution evaluation plan and place it in on the evaluation engine. Okay, so here the statistics and about the data, this helps the it consists of statistics and about the data, this helps the it consists of dbms catalog. Okay, so what the statistics about data will do, it is a metadata, data about data. It is used for the best evaluation of query. So it helps the optimizer for best evaluation of the query. So after evaluating the best query, that will be placed on the execution plan. Now that execution best evaluation will do, it consists of dbms catalog. Okay, so what the statistics about data will do, it is a metadata, data about data. It is used for the best evaluation of query. So it helps the optimizer for best evaluation of the query. So after evaluating the best query, that will be placed on the execution plan. Now that execution plan will send that plan in the form of in the form of a tree. Okay, so query tree, execution plan, always the plan will be represented like it is in the form of trees, then only it will be understand. Okay, so that execution plan will send it in the form of query tree and place that best query tree in the evaluation engine. Now the evaluation engine takes the best plan and returns the answer to the query output. Now you will get the best answer. Okay, so this evaluation engine is having the buffers like some data, extra data will be present. Okay, so it will store in this data and this evaluation engine takes the best one and whatever the next data that will be placed on the query output. So this is the query processing overview. First it takes the query. Okay, after that the parser and translator will convert the query into internal form and it also checks the syntax and verify the relation, whatever the query that is, and it is converted into relational algebraic expression. So that expression can be different expressions. In that different expressions, the optimizer will select the best query with the help of this data will do, it is a metadata, data about data. It is used for the best evaluation of query. Best evaluation of query. So it helps the optimizer for best evaluation of the query. So after evaluating the best query, that will be placed on the execution plan. Now that execution plan will send that plan in the form of in the form of a tree. Okay, so query tree, execution plan, always the plan will be represented like it is in the form of trees, then only it will be understand. Okay, so that execution plan will send it in the form of query tree, and place that best query tree in the evaluation engine. Now the evaluation engine takes the best plan and returns the answer to the query output. Now you will get the best answer. Okay, so this evaluation engine is having the buffers like some data, extra data will be present. Okay, so it will store in this data, and this evaluation engine takes the best one, and whatever the next data, that will be placed on the query output. So this is a query processing overview. First it takes the query. Okay, after that the parser and translator will convert the query into internal form, and it also checks the syntax and verify the relation, whatever the query that is, and it is converted into relational algebraic expression. So that expression can be different expressions. In the different expressions, the optimizer will select the best query with the help of the statistics about data, which is called as a dbms catalog. So with the help of this dbms catalog, it selects the best query and placed on the execution plans. Okay, execution plan convert that in the form of query tree, and it placed in the evaluation engine. Now the evaluation engine will send that selected query into the query output. So here you will get the answer, the exact query, whatever the database wants. Okay, so let's convert that as a dbms catalog. So with the help of and it is converted into relational algebraic expression. So that expression can be different expressions. In the different expressions, the optimizer will select the best query with the help of the statistics about data, which is called as a dbms catalog. So with the help of this dbms catalog, it selects the best query and placed on the execution plans. Okay, execution plan convert that into form of query tree, and it placed in the evaluation engine. Now the evaluation engine will send that selected query into the query output. So here you will get the answer, the exact query, whatever the database wants. Okay, so let us take one example. Okay, so suppose the query is like this. Means first we are taking the SQL query. It's a high-level query. So first the query processor is a procedure of transforming. I already said it is a procedure of transforming SQL query to low-level language query. Okay, so here first we have take SQL query. Select book title price. Okay, select book title price from book, where the condition is price should be greater than 30. So this is a query. This query we have to select as a best query. Means one best query we have to be selected. Here we are given a book is a table name. So book is a table name. In the table we are having the fields like title, price, output. But in this too we have this query optimizer will select the best query and place it in the evaluation. Sigma price. Okay, from this, so we will write like sigma price greater than 30 pi of books, book comma title comma price from book. This is one relation. Okay, from this you can write like this in the relational algebra, or else you can write pi book title price, where price is greater than 30 from the table book. So these two conditions, these two expressions are same. You'll get the same output. But in this two, we have this query optimizer will select the best query and place it in the evaluation engine. Okay, so this will be first what it does. So the query evaluation engine, sorry, the query optimizer will place the best query into the execution plan. So execution plan will convert that queries into query tree. Okay, what is query tree? Query tree is nothing but it is used to represent the relational algebra expressions. Okay, so the query tree represents into relational algebraic expression. Okay, so that expression should be in a tree data structure. Okay, and all the inputs relations are represented as leaf nodes. Okay, and all input represents relations are represented as leaf nodes, and the relational algebraic operators as internal nodes. Okay, so this will be the conditions. The query tree is used to represent the relational algebraic expression. So it is in the form of three data structures. The input is as leaf nodes and the operators will be used as an internal nodes. Now let us see the query tree. So this expression will now convert into query tree. So first take the book. Okay. So after that you have to take this expression pi book, comma title, comma price. Okay. After that the expression main expression pi price greater than 30. So this is the one way of representing the expression. This expression in query tree. Now coming to this expression. So the first one is the book. Next it's calculating the price that should be greater than 30. Okay. Next pi book, comma title, comma price. Okay. So after that so this expression will now convert into query tree. So first take the book. Okay. So after that you have to take this expression pi book, comma title, comma price. Okay. After that the expression main expression pi price greater than 30. So this is the one way of representing the expression. This expression in query tree. Now coming to this expression. So the first one is the book. Next it's calculating the price that should be greater than 30. Okay. Next pi book, comma title, comma price. Okay. So now the query optimizer will check. Next pi book, comma title, comma price. Okay. So now the query optimizer will check these two relational algebraic expressions in the form of query tree and selects the best one. Okay. And place it in the query evaluation engine. For a given query, so whatever the query is there, for a given query, there should be different evaluation plans, can have different costs. So each evaluation plan is having separate cost. So it is the responsibility of, whose responsibility? It is the responsibility of query optimizer. So query optimizer responsibility to select the best query to generate least costly plan. Okay. So from these two queries, the query optimizer will generate the least costly plan and place that in the query evaluation engine. Okay. So this is about the query optimizer. Thank you. So you can also say database management new task. So in that cases, the file system is difficult to access the data. If you want to retrieve the files, so some transaction. Hi students, coming to the next topic in database management system is, let us see what is a database. So I already tell the definition of the database. A database is nothing but it is a collection of data. So with the help of these application program and database management system software, hi students, coming to the next topic, terms that are used. Or also you can call the database administrators, the person who is to display the data on the screen. We need some hardware devices, and also if you want to see the hard copy, you need some printer. So these hardware will it is one of. Hi students, let us continue with the database management system architecture. Actually in the previous video I explained. Hi students, coming to the next topic in the subject database management system is database users and the administrators. So in the previous video when I am explaining about the database management system structure, there we have seen database users. So there's a different users that are present in the here. So this is the database management structure. Here you have seen different users. These are the database users: native users, application programmers, sophisticated users, and database administrators. So let us see who are the database users. So the database users are native user, next application programmer, and sophisticated user, and specialized specialized user. Sorry, it's not writing. So let me write specialized user, and next is online user. So these are the 5 users. You call it as a database user, means these people are accessing the database. Now let us see one by one. So who are native users? Native users. So native users are those who need not be aware of the presence of database system. So they don't know about the presence of database system. They are just accessing the application, whatever they are using that. So they need not be aware of the presence of the database system. So in the structure I had said native users are nothing but the sellers and the agents. So they will interact with the database only with the help of.
Hello everyone, welcome to tech2.com. In this lecture, we will understand what is isolation level and what are the violations allowed in that particular isolation level. Okay, so as name suggests, isolation is isolation of two transactions. Okay, so let's say I have two transactions. This is T1. So as name suggests, isolation means how two transactions T1 and T2 are isolated from each other. Okay. So when we have studied AC property, okay, this I stands for this isolation, right? Okay, and it means that how two transactions are isolated to each other. Okay, so the idea is to have transactions isolated to each other, right? And for that we have various isolation level defined. In that case, this item is not yet committed to read, right? Has appeared from committed isolation level doesn't allow the read, but hello everyone, welcome to tech2.com. In this lecture, we will understand what is isolation level and what are the violations allowed in that particular isolation level. Okay, so as name suggests, isolation is isolation of two transactions. Okay, so let's say I have two transactions.
Started the campus recording. I'm starting the Zoom recording.
Recording in progress.
All right, I've started the Zoom recording as well. All right, so what is the topic for today? Before I start anything, I have some throat pain. I'm actually struggling to speak. So if you guys hear any problem understanding me, please do repeat one more time. Just ask me to repeat one more time. And also maybe if you're not able to hear me properly, just ask me another time. I'll repeat the thing. Okay. So the topic for today, we'll be continuing learning the transactions. Okay, and transaction string, which is a very important topic, and maybe a topic that we usually struggle because we do ignore it, but it's a very important topic that I've studied before. So in the last session we were discussing some annotations that's called transactional annotations. If you guys remember, we keep on annotating our methods with @transactional, and we spoke a little bit about the propagation label. But if you want to see something else here as well, if you want to do a control space, you want to see something called isolation, and there are a lot of different values over here, and it really can mess things up if you don't understand this one. So we'll take time to understand these different isolation labels and how we'll be basically implementing all these things like read committed, read uncommitted, repeatable, read serializable. Maybe this thing sounds familiar if you do remember your BTech days or engineering days, maybe 10, 15 years back, or maybe 5, 6 years back if you remember things, or else we'll start from absolute scratch. Okay, so before we come to Spring and utilize all these isolations labels which are present, I'm going to take you back to maybe your learning days and maybe used to learn a lot of different things, right? Those things we will understand with some presentation as a prerequisite before we jump into this transactional annotation and keep using all these things which are available. I want you guys to understand what do you mean by isolation. If you forgot it or if you want to rephrase the concept, we'll just revise it one more time, then we'll come to Spring. So for now, I'll be just closing my SES. We will not be reading it. I have prepared a small presentation. I hope that I haven't checked the things, any typo, any spell checks. I haven't done. I just have written it, so maybe I think this will make sense. And I've written down some commands here. I'll be giving you these commands, so make sure to practice these things as well. Okay. So now come back to
isolation. Okay, so maybe let's start talking about isolations in acid. If you remember, you have a property called acid property. You remember, atomicity stands for A, C stands for consistency, I stands for isolation, and D stands for durability. Okay, maybe today I will be exploring isolation in acid, and this is one of the very important things. What do you mean by isolation? Okay, you guys remember about atomicity, A of acid. Atomicity means, you know, you have a bunch of queries. Those queries need to be executed, and if anything's in between fails, then the entire transactions will be rolled back. So either all or none. Either all the queries inside a transaction will be executed, or if something is failing in between, the entire transaction will be rolled back. That's what we mean by atomicity. Now let's come to the isolation property. ACID. A stands for atomicity, C stands for consistency. We'll be going back to that. Now I want you guys to understand the isolation property so that we can utilize the things that we'll be learning from here in our spring, and we can see it in action. Okay, so imagine you got some data. Okay, you got some data 10. Imagine this is some column in some table in your database, right? Now you got a transaction, let's say transaction 1, and this transaction is reading the data, right? The data, let's say this data is there in your database, and we are reading this data using the transaction 1. Now, imagine it
Hello everyone, welcome to tech2.com. In this lecture, we will understand what is isolation level and what are the violations allowed in that particular isolation level. Okay, so as name suggests, isolation is isolation of two transactions. Okay, so let's say I have two transactions. This is T1. So as name suggests, isolation means how two transactions T1 and T2 are isolated from each other. Okay, so when we have studied AC property, okay, this I stands for this isolation, right? Okay, and it means that how two transactions are isolated to each other. Okay, so the idea is to have transactions isolated to each other, right? And for that we have various isolation level defined in SQL. Okay, and related to each isolation level, we also have some violations, like which isolation level is strict and which one has some violations allowed. Okay, so let's learn it. So before we list isolation level and violations allowed, let's understand what are violations. Okay, so what are basically violations? First one, which we will be considering here, is dirty read. Now second one is non-repeatable read, and the third one is phantom. Okay, So we have understood all of this in previous chapter, but let's quickly revise it. What is dirty read? So if an item is read before it has been committed, so let's say a transaction T1 writes an item A, okay, and transaction T2 reads it quickly after this write, okay. So in that case, this item is not yet committed and transaction T2 reads it, okay. So if this transaction fails, this data which has been read completely becomes irrelevant, okay. So it means that this is a dirty read, okay. Whenever you are reading something which is not committed, then it is dirty read. Now let's focus what is non-repeatable read. So let's say I have this table, okay, and in table we have data item. This is data item A. The third one is phantom, okay, and transaction T2 reads it quickly after this write, okay. So in that case, this item is not yet committed and transaction T2 reads it, okay. So if this transaction fails, this data which has been read completely becomes irrelevant, okay. Not yet committed and transaction T2 reads it, okay. So if this transaction fails, this data which has been read completely becomes irrelevant, okay. So it means that this is a dirty read, okay. Whenever you are reading something which is not committed, then it is dirty read. Now let's focus what is non-repeatable read. So let's say I have this table, okay, and in table we have data item. This is data item A, okay. Now let's say this transaction T1 reads the value of this, okay, read A, okay, and it gets that this is 10, right. Now another transaction T2 modifies this data item and it modifies it as writes A as, let's say, 20, okay. So now this becomes 20. Now when this transaction T1 this again reads the item, okay, then initially it was 10 but now it finds it as 20, right, 20. So you can see that between, like, this is reading the data item A and it is getting 20. So you can find that between these two reads by transaction T1 and the transaction T2 modified the data, and when the second transaction, I mean the transaction T1 is reading the data again, then it finds that the value has been changed, okay. So in that manner, this repeated read is causing a problem, right. We cannot repeat the read, right, due to this intervention of transaction T2, okay. So this is the problem and this is called non-repeatable read. Another one is phantom phenomena. Phantom phenomena is that, let's say, in a database table, now you have various rows, right, various rows. A transaction T1 performs a query. Let's say this is Q1, okay, performs a query, and then he founds two rows are relevant over certain condition. Let's say I'll write C, okay. So this transaction T1 performs a query over condition C and retrieves two rows, these two rows, right. Now a transaction T2 performs a update query. Let's say this is, I'll write as QU over the same condition C, okay. Then what will happen? He inserts another row in between, okay, another row is inserted by this transaction, and now if the same query is again performed, then another new row is found. So what I'm saying is, initially transaction T1 performs a query over condition C on this table, okay, and if this transaction finds two rows relevant and it is retrieved, okay, two rows are returned for this query. Now transaction T2 in between performs update query and inserts another row, okay, over the same C condition, okay. Now if this query is run again, what will happen? This will retrieve another row, this extra row will be retrieved, right. So this extra row appears like a phantom, okay, because for the same query it was not there, now suddenly it has appeared from nowhere. So for the same query, as it is retrieving another extra row, that is called phantom row, and this phenomena is called phantom phenomena, okay. So these are the violations. Now let's see for which isolation level which violations are allowed. Now you can see that these are the isolation levels. This is read uncommitted, read committed. It is clear from the name, that is, this isolation level allows read uncommitted value, okay, uncommitted data. This doesn't allow uncommitted data, okay, to be read. It allows only committed data to be read. This is repeatable read, okay. So repeatable read, we have just seen that what is a repeatable read.
Hello, welcome to another video of Code Snippet. So this video is basically continuation of last few videos where we are looking into string transactions and their transactional annotation, and in this video we are going to look into transaction isolations. So transaction isolations are very important when we do database operations inside our project. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So this is going to be a fun video, so sit back, relax and enjoy this. So let's get into the agenda first. So we have a simple agenda today, transaction isolation levels, right? And these are the type of levels that we are going to look into, right? So the implementation of these isolation levels is very simple. So if I go into the project over here, so this is basically a book application that we have been using, and here we have a book service where we have add book method, let's say, and that have a transaction, right? So propagation is something which we already have checked in the last video, right? And isolation is something which we are going to look into now, right? So after propagation, you can just add a isolation like this, right? You can assign a value. So there are various isolation available: default, serializable, read committed, read uncommitted, repeatable read, right? So all those are isolation levels basically, right? From this list, you can just select one, and that isolation level will be applied to this particular function, right? And this particular transaction, right? Very, very easy, right? Now if I go inside this isolation default, then this isolation enum have all the isolation levels that is supported, right? Now let's first discuss what is the isolation, right? So what exactly is isolation? We are saying that, okay, isolation level, what exactly is this? So let's say we have multiple transactions running in parallel, right? Let's say you are working in multi-threaded environment, right? And there are multiple transactions running. Let's say there is a transaction A which is running, there is transaction B which is running, right, in parallel, right? Now, how transaction A is isolated from transaction B? What is the impact that they have on each other? How transaction B is separate from transaction A? That is something which we define by using transaction isolation levels, right? So how these two transactions running in parallel will impact your data? So that is something which we define by using isolation levels, right? Isolation is basically a global concept wherever we use transaction, right? It's not just related to Spring. It will be a global concept basically everywhere when we which we define by using transaction isolation levels, right? So how these two transactions running in parallel will impact your data? So that is something which we define by using isolation levels, right? Isolation is basically a global concept wherever we use transaction, right? Not just related to Spring. It will be a global concept basically everywhere when we talk about transaction, we talk about isolation levels as well, right? Now we have defined what is isolation. Now the next question is why? Why isolation, right? So we have different isolation levels, means they are doing something different, right? And these isolations are introduced because they are solving some problems. They are solving some problems while running a parallel transactions, right? Now what problem they are solving? So if you read what is written on top of this, let me zoom it a bit. So a constant indicating that dirty reads, non-repeatable reads, and phantom reads can occur. Right? Now these three are problem that we are talking about, right? Dirty reads, non-repeatable reads, and phantom reads can occur. These isolation levels are trying to solve these problems, right? Now, in order to understand these isolation levels, we need to first understand what is dirty read, what is non-repeatable read, what is phantom reads, right? Because if you don't know that, you will not be able to understand what is these isolation levels are doing and how they are solving this problem, right? Now, let's go back over here in the diagram, right? Now, let's first understand dirty reads, right? So let's first see what is dirty reads. So these three problems we will first understand, and then we will see which isolation level is solving what problem, right? So it's very, very easy. So let's first talk about dirty reads, right? So let's say here we have this scenario, right? So let's say this is your application and you have a two transaction running, right? So let's say I'm running a book application since this is a book application. Now there are two APIs that two users invoke at the same time, right? One is trying to read the data and other is trying to update the data, right? So two transactions will be started for two APIs, right? Now what will happen? Let's say transaction B started reading, right? Transaction B wants a book where book ID is 1, right? And transaction A wants to update the same value. So update book, set book name equals to Harry Potter, where book ID equals to 1. That means transaction A is updating the data and transaction B is reading the data. Now let's say transaction A updated the data, but the data is not committed inside the DB yet. And transaction B read the data, right? It retrieved that particular row, book ID 1. Let's say there must be some other name, let's say Harry Potter season 2. But now transaction B read the data, right? Just after transaction B is reading the data, this data got updated. But these two transactions are running in parallel, right? So now the data which transaction B read is a dirty data. So this we call as a dirty data. So transaction B retrieved the data, but it's now dirty. Such scenario and such data and such read operation is called as dirty reads. So this is the problem of dirty reads, right? So dirty reads is basically this problem, right? Now next problem is non-repeatable reads, right? So the data is not committed inside table reads. Now let's say again there are two transactions running, right? Transaction A and transaction B. Now let's say transaction A is reading book ID 1, right? It is reading book from book ID 1. Now performing some operation in between and again reading book where book ID 1, right? So it is executing similar query twice, right? And in between it may be performing some kind of operation, right? And at the same time our transaction B is running. Now while A was performing some operation, B changed the data, right? B changed the data. It updated the book, said book name equals to Harry Potter, where book ID equals to 1. So it updated the book with same book ID. So same data is updated by transaction B, right? Now transaction A, when it hit the similar query two times, right? Similar query two times to extract one row, one book from DB, it got different data each time, right? So first it executed this query, it got some other name, but now transaction B updated the name of the book. In a similar transaction, when we are hitting that same query again, we are getting a different data. So that is non-repeatable read. Again, if in single transaction you are hitting a same query and getting a two different results, that is non-repeatable reads. This is again happening at the same time. So if you hit the same query a couple of times, you should get the same result. But our friend other transaction is updating and second time we are getting a different results. That means this is again a problem, right? That problem we call as non-repeatable reads, right? Now let's move to phantom reads, right? Let's go to phantom reads. So again, consider a scenario. So it's kind of a similar kind of scenario now. Again, two transactions are running in parallel, right? Now look at this query, okay, carefully. Select star from book where price is less than 100, right? So now there will be a chunk of book. Now there will not be a row. Here in repeatable reads, we only had a row because book ID 1 will be unique and one book only will be retrieved, right? So in case of non-repeatable. But in phantom, you'll get multiple books. You'll get a chunk of books, right? Because in your table, you may have multiple books which have price less than 100, right? Now here, again, similar problem. We are hitting same query two times in a single transaction. But now what our friend transaction B is doing parallelly in second transaction is inserting a new book with price 50, let's say ID 5 new book is name and 50 is price, right? So it's inserting a new book now. Now that new book will be filtered in this where clause as well because the value is less than 100, right? Now here when transaction A is hitting a single request or single query two times, it is getting a different data that we call as a phantom reads. So that's basically we call as phantom reads. So it's a problem, basically another problem, right? Non-repeatable is for single row, but phantom is for a chunk of data, right? So that is the difference between non-repeatable and phantom, right? Because they may look similar, so I'm just highlighting the difference between these two. Here if you see we are updating the data, but here if you see we are inserting the data. We have seen dirty reads, non-repeatable reads, and phantom reads by now, right? So we understood